Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our virtual event chat as part of the STEM Careers All Year series that we have with our wonderful partner, General Motors or GM. We're so excited that you can join us here for our Q&A chat with another GM employee. Through this series, we are exploring different STEM careers and how GM employees have found their STEM identity. And hi there, sorry about that.
Sorry.
I think I had a little technical difficulty, which luckily for us, as we explore STEM these days, we'll get better and better with connectivity, right? Um, so as I was saying, we're here today to talk with a GM employee who will share a little bit about her STEM identity. I am going to pass it off to my colleague and friend Kelsey, who is at General Motors. You may have seen her in a few of these sessions before. But Kelsey's going to share more about who we're going to be speaking with today, the work that GM does around STEM, and what we can look forward to. I do want to mention that our special guest speaker, Melissa, who Kelsey will introduce, is also featured in our STEM Defines the Future video series, which is now on the First Book Marketplace. It's a free resource, a series of videos, and an accelerator. So educators, please go on our STEM page on the Marketplace so you can see those resources. All right, I'm going to turn it off over to Kelsey, who will share a little bit more.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenna. And I think I had some technical difficulties there as well. So I definitely feel you on our journey to figuring out a little bit more technical savviness with our events. So hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Gaines, and I am the Senior Manager of STEM Education Grant Making at General Motors. I have the exciting opportunity of working with nonprofits across the country like First Book, bringing really robust STEM programming to students across the country so that we can help make sure all kiddos just like you have an opportunity to learn more about STEM and decide what careers you might want to pursue. And hopefully some of those are in STEM fields and maybe even at an automotive company like General Motors. So today we are joined by Melissa Phipps. And as Jenna mentioned, she is also in our video series, so be sure to check that out. And Melissa serves as a senior sustainable materials engineer. And I will pass things over to Melissa to dive a little bit deeper into what on earth that means, as well as how she came to do this exciting work at GM.
Hey, welcome everyone. I'm really glad to join you today. I'm excited to share a little bit about myself and kind of what led me to my pathway to GM. So yeah, thanks for queuing up this slide deck for me, and we can just get started. Feel free to enter in questions along the way if you'd like, and we'll do a little Q&A at the end. So with that, my name is Melissa Phipps. I'm a sustainable materials engineer, as Kelsey mentioned, and I work with vehicle program engineers and our suppliers to really source materials that are better for the planet, more environmentally and socially responsible. Really is what we strive to achieve. One of the things that we feel that our materials are more talk about a little bit that later, and that they have a lower carbon footprint as well. So if you can go to the next slide for me, I'll tell you a little bit about me personally first. So I grew up on a dairy farm. I live in Michigan, and growing up on the farm there with my brothers and my family, we spent a lot of time kind of taking care of the land and the animals that were in our care. And I developed a really deep passion for our environment. I mean, really, our livelihood as a family depended upon the land and the environment around us. So I ended up having a really deep appreciation at an early age for how the land takes care of us, and then we have to take care of the land in return. Now I live in Lansing, Michigan, the capital, and I'm a wife and mother. You can see my husband and son there on the slide. Some of the things I haven't done quite a few of these in a while, but I enjoy reading, knitting, sports, horseback riding, and something called vermicomposting, which is a fun thing to Google someday if you're able. I've run 2 half marathons. I played a couple instruments in school, the saxophone and the tuba, and some of my favorites are listed there, like Pavlova. My favorite song is The Scientist, and my favorite book is called The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So with that, move into more of my professional career. So my first job was really working on our family farm. I would feed calves and kind of take care of the stalls that they were in. We'd pick rocks out of the field, all sorts of different kind of age appropriate tasks for me back then. And then as I grew up, I graduated from high school, went on to college, and I earned a bachelor's degree. And then once I found my way to GM, I got my master's degree while I was working. I've had a lot of different jobs throughout college, and I feel like each one of them, you learn something, definitely about yourself, I would say. And so I took a variety of different positions, and I feel like it definitely shaped me as an individual. One of the kind of coolest jobs I feel like I've had is working for the Forest Service when I was an intern, and I got to look for rare and endangered species on Forest Service land and participate in some wildland firefighting. So it was pretty exciting. Then in 2016, I was hired as an environmental engineer for GM. And in 2021, so a couple of years ago, I became a sustainable materials engineer. So I'm really enjoying the job I have today. It's absolutely my passion. And I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about what that actually means. One other note, I do serve on the board of directors for a local nonprofit, the Woldemar Nature Center here in Lansing, which focuses on environmental education for kids. Yeah. So really, what does it mean to try to make a vehicle more sustainable and trying to get sustainable materials? There's a lot of different ways that people can describe what their sustainability journey looks like. But here at GM, we focus on kind of some three major pillars, I'd say. So material circularity. So that's trying to shift from what people refer to as the linear economy. So when you buy something from the store, you use it for a little bit and then it gets thrown away, and transition to what we now refer to as the circular economy. So when you're done with that item, you're able to reuse it, repurpose it, remanufacture it, or recycle it so that it keeps going around and is able to be reused and not thrown away at the end of its life. So we look to try to design materials so that they can be reused, and we try to use recycled content. One of the other focus areas that we look at is the greenhouse gas reduction. So that you may have heard the term carbon footprint. And so we look at how much carbon is emitted when we manufacture a single vehicle and how do we shrink that. And so we look for more recycled materials. We work with our suppliers to make sure that they are trying to reduce their carbon emissions as well. One of the ways that they can do that is becoming more energy efficient. In your own home, becoming energy efficient means turning off lights, making sure that you're not wasting heat by leaving the door open in the winter, things like that. Our suppliers do very similar things. They look for where energy is wasted, and they're able to shrink the carbon footprint of materials by doing that. And, one of the last things, the bullet points there, is making the vehicle lighter and more fuel efficient. That also reduces carbon emissions. And lastly, we focus on the social side because the environmental piece is only part of it. The other side is making sure that we're working with suppliers who have the morals that align with GM, really. And so we want to make sure that they're doing the right thing with human rights and labor practices, and that we invest in our communities as well, because we want to take care of the people that support GM. So with that, the last example here is something like what this really looks like in practice. I've taken a piece of information from our 2022 sustainability report, and just an FYI, sustainability reports are available for all major corporations nowadays for the most part. So you can really go online and pretty easily find the sustainability report of a lot of different companies. But GM publishes one each year, and in 2022, we used approximately 24 million pounds of recycled content. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult to grasp what that really looks like. So I converted it to elephants for you. So that would be 2,400 elephants approximately. And we are very excited to share in 2023, sorry, in next year in 2024, our 2023 report, which will really increase the number of parts and the amount of recycled content. So looking forward to sharing those details with the public soon. With that, I appreciate your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Awesome. Thanks so much for going over your amazing career, Melissa, and the path you've taken to get to where you are currently. I know we've got some folks entering questions in the chat, but in the meantime, I do have a question for you. So you grew up on a dairy farm, and you really had your first exposure and excitement around sustainability in working there. But did you also have perhaps any STEM role models as a result of being so involved with that, with your dairy farm?
Yeah, I would say probably like a lot of kids. One of my first career aspirations was becoming a veterinarian because I would see the veterinarian come to our dairy farm, and this individual was incredibly adept at being able to diagnose what was happening with this animal and had the ability to really help take care of our herd and make sure that they were back on the mend as quickly as possible. I just thought it was an incredible skill set to have, really absolutely crucial to animal farming. And so I would say I did look up to our vet that came weekly to the farm. And then also, I was a huge Bill Nye the Science Guy fan as a kid.
That's awesome. And I too shared the aspiration to be a veterinarian when I was younger, but such a cool career path. And who does not love the science lessons from Bill Nye?
Yeah. I'm going to share just really quickly, like
Yeah,
a brief other thing. So if you have heard of the incredible Dr. Pol,
I
have
don't
you?
think
I
so.
don't know. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, there was a show about him for a while. I think I forget if it was Discovery or something, but he had his own show, and the Dr. Pol was our vet, so you can actually see him
Oh,
on TV. Back when I was very young.
that's very cool. I'll have to
Yeah.
check that out. All right. I think we've got some questions coming in here. So our first one is, what advice do you have for students that might struggle with STEM subjects in school?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say, maybe be a little patient. Not that you should not try, right? You should give it your best. But I personally struggled with chemistry in high school. It wasn't something I was super excited about for some reason. It just didn't hit with me at that point. And then when I went to college, actually, I ended up changing my major to chemistry at one point because I fell in love with it so much. And I don't know if it's because I needed to hear it a second or third time, or just a different environment. Or there was something about when I was exposed to chemistry again later on that it really hit for me. So I guess I would say, don't rule it out if you're struggling right now, and there could absolutely be a season in life later where you fall in love with it, so just keep trying.
That's a really awesome message. And I think perseverance is always something that no matter where you are in life, it's something we should all be practicing a little bit more of.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have another question coming up here. What achievement at work are you most proud of?
Oh, that's a good one too. So I think I'm probably most proud of starting a composting program at the Milford Proving Ground. So we got 5,000 engineers there to all learn that compostable plastic and recyclable plastic are two different things, even though they look very similar. So tough task, it's a nice mixture, I would say, of social science and like more of the environmental science. So because not only did we have to, it was a better thing for the planet to not throw away a lot of these like cups, single use cups that would be used in the cafeteria. But when we started composting them, you have to make sure that they get segregated. And so, trying to explain all the different types of plastic and making sure that people were putting things in the right bin, that was a social science experiment for sure.
Definitely. And can you share real quick what the Milford Proving Grounds is?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The Milford Proving Grounds is where we test and validate vehicles before they go into production. So it's in Milford, Michigan, and it is full of test tracks and some incredibly brilliant engineers who help design and verify that the vehicle that goes into production is the one that will perform the best and have the qualities and features that the customer needs.
It sounds like a super cool place.
It is. It is.
All right, let's see. Do we have any other questions? What can kids do at home to help the planet?
I'm so glad for that question. So many things, like we talked about earlier, you can look around for opportunities where maybe energy is being wasted. If you have the ability to do any curbside recycling, to learn, what that recycler will accept, and you can recycle items when you're done with them. I really want to emphasize the part of learn what they accept, because sometimes there's something called wish cycling, where just putting something in that bin doesn't mean that it actually gets recycled, and sometimes it causes actually big headaches. So I would say become familiar with what you can recycle and where, and contribute that way. And then you can look at how can you change what happens at end of life for your materials. So do you have a younger sibling or friends that can accept some of the clothes that you've grown out of? Do you have toys that can be donated? So many things that really don't need to be thrown away, but they are. So I would say just kind of look for ways to contribute to that circular economy that I was talking about.
That's awesome advice. And I appreciate the comment on wish cycling. I know for a long time I thought just regular old plastic grocery bags were recyclable, curbside recycling, but they aren't. And it actually causes a huge mess for our local recycling companies as they're sorting through what actually is recyclable. So I think that's a really great piece of advice for kiddos.
100%. That's a great example right there. I think it's a common misconception, so I wouldn't feel bad, Kelsey. I think a lot of people were confused about those plastic bags.
Yes, and I've seen now many grocery stores actually have recycling centers in store that you can bring those bags back to.
Yeah, exactly. And GM, we need people to recycle. In order for us to use recycled content in our vehicles, we need to have a viable recycling market and all of these opportunities to collect recycled content from consumers. So we appreciate it.
That's awesome, and love the use of recycled content.
Mhm.
I think we have time for just one more question here. What material has been the most difficult to find a sustainable alternative of?
That's a really good question too. I think it depends a little bit on what you consider a sustainable alternative, and technology is really like I would say breaking down some of those barriers before. But I would say one of the things that's more challenging right now for us, just because it's a newer space, is battery materials. So, really, in order to use recycled content in a battery, we need a bunch of batteries to reach end of life to be recycled. And so, just because electric vehicles are still so new, relatively speaking, it's been difficult to get enough recycled cobalt, recycled nickel, recycled lithium to use in our batteries. So, I would say, we have the technology to make it happen, but the amount that we need is still, that's a challenge that is going to be addressed over the next few years as electric vehicles become more commonplace. So I'd say batteries just they're newer, so that's a more challenging spot right now. But we are absolutely working on it. We are very focused on making those batteries more sustainable.
That's awesome to hear. And one final fun question here for you: what is your favorite car that GM makes?
I really love the electric Blazer. It's a snazzy car. I'm obviously a big fan of electric vehicles, and I have a child, so that extra space would be super handy.
That is awesome. I too love that vehicle and would love to own one someday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks for your questions, everyone.
they were really wonderful questions, and we so much appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today, Melissa. I think we're bringing Jenna back up on screen here to round us out. Yes, there she is.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Kelsey. And as Melissa said, great questions in from the audience. Really appreciate everyone listening in. And for those of you who watch this recorded, you can see all the questions that came in and hear the answers right there. We're so happy to continue the series. So we will be putting out information about the next STEM Careers All Year session for January in a couple weeks. So stay tuned. We'll have more of these events all through the rest of the school year, ending in June. So lots to look forward to, lots more STEM careers to hear about and hear from diverse employees across GM. We're so excited. Thank you again, Melissa. We really appreciate you sharing how we can think, how GM thinks, and how you've discovered a new way of creating resources that are better for our planet and going into GM vehicles, and how you got to the role where you're at today. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Again, we hope that educators will go to the First Book Marketplace and check out the STEM Defines Our Future Accelerator. You can see the link there at the bottom of your screen. There's great videos talking about different soft skills, as well as some insight into the plants and offices where cars are made at GM. So take a look. We hope you'll enjoy them. And we will see you all again in January. Thank you.